Greetings everyone, Lumberg here. Happy Sunday. Hope your battle frenzy is going well. Ours is not going so well. We're fighting 219 and Sin, so we had some traded attacks, TA and TD, and we lost really bad. So I got a message from my YouTube channel that somebody wrote me a message that, hey, 309 Gun, a friendly alliance that we've fought and have great mutual respect for, they wanted me to take a look on their nation chat for this frenzy attack video. So I said, okay, well, my troops are all dead, so let me go ahead and take a look. So I logged into my spy account. I found the battle report in question and wanted to see if I can play it. Before we play it, just to give you some context, this is 457 versus 309. The target city that they're attacking is none other than Yellow Bird. Very strong city. Just to look at his stats, look at how many T12 shredders he has. Look at how many T12 laser cannons he has. That's 500,000 troops, or 5 million units of T12 lasers, the strongest troop in the unit in the game. His long range attack, is 1487, melee HP 1165, long range HP 1329. So undeniably a really strong account, and he has 16 million units. Now, some of those are lower tier, but not that many, right? So just a couple of T3 and T4, but a lot of strength here. And if you just look at this report, it seems strange that with 42 attackers and 13 million troops, somehow they're able to beat a 200 million BP plus T12 strongest player on the server. So let's dive in and actually watch this report and try to figure out what happened. So we're going to watch the video replay. Everything looks normal. You can see there was a couple of defenders and Yellow Bird initially, and then these lagged displays of all the enemy joining the battle. You can look at the battle bar on the top, and you can see that it's still a healthy blue. There's a little bit of red ticking in, but now you can see that the defense is holding up and the bar is basically staying steady, and it looks like it's going to be a victory for blue. And everything looks good, and this is where things start breaking down. So you'll notice here that the bar changes, and look at his front row disintegrating. So something is going wrong here. Everything is starting to disintegrate, and then here, look at these troop counts. Nothing else is going to change for the remainder of the battle. None of these troops are going to change, and that makes absolutely no sense. All these defenders, all of this battle power here of these T12 cannons, these T11 cannons and T12 EMP lasers, nobody is doing anything because there is an invincibility potion or trick installed, or basically an error. Where, of course, so from 26 seconds to about 50 seconds for the remaining battle, with the enemy taking no damage, they basically just whittle down and destroy everything. Everybody else that's reinforcing late, they are getting 0 kills, and we'll see that on the report. So something very strange is going on here. Let's look at the report. So you can see basically the people that were reinforcing earlier before that 26-second mark got some killed. Gun got a lot of the kills because the battle was okay initially. And then look, everybody else that came later, they got 0 kills. Scroll down and you'll see that there is more 0 kills. 0 kills because everybody that tried to reinforce later got 0 kills. So it makes absolutely no sense that, and you can see it on the battle, that how do you get 0 kills when you're sending a full fleet, and it just doesn't make sense. The attackers, I mean, they're a strong nation, but there's some weak players here too, or relatively weak. 436 LRA, there's some strong players down there, but it's an even mix of like any other alliance. So these are some strong players, but it just doesn't make sense that if your opponent is a 230 million BP strongest player on the server for 309, that somehow with fewer units, you have 13 million units here, total units, that were able to overpower 16 million alone of the strongest player. I mean, that just doesn't make sense. With his stats, it's not feasible. It's not possible. And we saw why. It's because it's an error. We'll watch it again. You can see it, clearly. It looks like a win. The attackers are pouring in, and then something starts to go wrong at the 20-second mark. So you look at his front row is staying steady. There's a good bit of T12 shredders there. There's tanks, Titan skills, and there is no front row for the enemy anymore. So it's like there's just no way that this can be a loss for the defender, but this is when things start getting wrong. So some of these defenders coming in and this new batch of front row that came in and refreshed. And at this point in time, magically now, from now on, there is nobody that's going to die. Invincibility, God mode activated, and that's the end. Doesn't matter how strong that back row is, they are just getting decimated because they're doing no damage. Even when defenders are coming in late, everybody that's come in late, that usually this would be okay, the target should change and this should buy you some time, but nope. All of these people that came in later, none of these people got a single kill because the invincibility error mode was turned on. So this is clearly, an unfair situation and an error, and it needs to be reversed. I don't know what to say. It's just wrong. Understandably, the players of 309 are upset, once I show some of my research about 457, they'll probably be even more upset. So we're going to dive in a little bit deeper about 457. So I'm not making any accusations. I think this is most likely an error. I think Camel needs to look into this and they need to reverse this decision, because all of those people that basically, got 0 kills, they should get rewards. And then furthermore, this was a closed frenzy. So I talked to some of the people and you can see here that, let's look at the frenzy score, total ranking. It's 12.2 versus 9.3, but that one battle alone is worth a couple of billion of points. So you could easily argue that battle alone would have changed the tide of this score. Also, they mentioned that, even before Frenzy started, 457 was wildly ahead, and they didn't understand why. But, Woody, another vet, or a Camel vet, I should say, I'm no longer a vet, he made a video about 373 battling 442. So let's take a look and see how they're doing. As expected, you can see here 442 is slamming it against 373. The score was even more widely different, as you could see from Woody's video, but it looks like they came back some. But, it's impossible to compete with these nations, and I'm going to show you why. Woody showed some of that already, that they've gotten a lot of mergers. And, we need to address this. Camel needs to address this and help make things fair. So let's take a look at 457. Let's take a look at some of their strengths and their cities and some of their rankings. Normally, you can't have access to this because it's one of the servers that says nation data is full, but because we have an event going, let's take a look at these rankings. So first of all, we really can't look at Alliance BP because, they're in the middle of battle, so a lot of people have lost BP that will come back in a couple of hours when Frenzy's over. But we can look at some other things. So even if you just look at Commander Power ranking, you can see that they have a couple of pretty large cities even after Frenzy is ongoing, and they've been through some big attacks. So, pretty strong there. Nothing unusual. But then let's take a look at some of these city ranking, and this is where things start to begin to really unravel. Look at that. That is all C-38s. There is a total of 12 C-38s in a nation that is in the 400s, and that is unheard of. But let's keep going. So some of the main things to look at your power is Titan ranking, right? So Titan ranking, wow. Look at how many cities have Titan ranks above 1 million. Above 1 million is pretty dang strong. So there is 26 cities that are above 1 million in a world that is 457. So that is insanely strong. So let's give you some context. Let's compare that with what's the Titan ranking of 309, and then also what's the Titan ranking of my world, which is a pretty strong world. We only lost Void once, and we are #1 in our GC. So this is 309. Bird is 2.2, and you can see that, okay, they have seven cities with Titan power over 1 million, compared to 26 in the other world in 457. Next, let's look at officer power ranking, right? So you can see the officer power ranking, 10 million there for the top one, and then you can see 5 million, pretty strong world. 5 million stays for a while, and then, it goes to about 3, and right around about basically the top 50 commanders are right at that 3 million and above mark, which is pretty strong. Let's also take a look at island ranking. So if you look at island ranking, anything above 1,000 is actually pretty somebody has spent a lot. So you can see there's only 7 cities above 1,000. Now let's compare that to 457. You can see here, yep, 16 cities above 1,000 and many hovering right around that 1,000 mark. Officer ranking, let's look at that. So hovering around that 4-3 mark. And then let's go to the top 50. You can see that from an officer standpoint, it looks like they're about the same. So officers, these, at the top, it's comparable. There's more, however, stronger cities at the top. Look at this top 10 is much stronger. And that makes sense, right? So this nation has been around a lot less time than 309 or 285 has. And just to give you some perspective, where I am, a moderate spender, let's just take a look at where my Titan ranking is. My Titan ranking is 588, right? So, I mean, I'm not that weak. I'm definitely not that strong, but you can see the vast disparity. And then look at, this is our top 10 Titans, and you can see that we only have 10. That's where it tapes off. So only 10 above 1 million, and we're #1 ranked in our GC, and we're a pretty strong nation, and we spend. There's a lot of people that spend. Now we'll start the second part of my video where I basically feel like an investigative journalist, right? So we're going to go into the saga of 457 and 442, these two nations. So if you've seen Woody's latest video, he talked about, the disparity of battling 442 and started touching on this topic. And I feel like, as we see more and more of this, it's going to become a lot more prevalent. I have to be careful because, Camel may come after me. And I'm going to try to be fair, and I'm just going to try to point out facts and rephrase some of the conversations that I've had. So let's look. So if you basically look in the official Discord page for Camel, they have in-game announcements where they announce, all of the world mergers, right? And if you look through this list, you'll see that, okay, on July 22nd, there was a merger for 457. And if you know me, I've actually logged all of these in a merger list. So there is, when I tell you that there is no other mention of 457 merging in any other period, you can go back and verify it, that, I've gone through each one of these and made sure that if there was 457 listed in here, it would be on my list, and it's not. I can, you can verify that yourself. So 457 officially, as published by Camel, has been merged once, and it was here on July 22nd, in this list right here. They had a Chaos Land, so 432, 435, and 457 merged together. 457 won Chaos Land, and, just like everybody else, they had a merger. Let's dive deeper. So here's World 457, and some of you are used to seeing this. Channel data is full, and then also, as Woody showed, you can still access the channel by going into one of the worlds that merged into this that gives you access into, you can't place a spy city, but you can at least see the nation rankings and the city rankings. So we're going to try to see that. When a nation is merged, basically they still stay on the map, but what you'll notice is that no president will be listed, and there will be a default picture of this tiger. So worlds that have been merged will have no president listed, and they will always have a tiger. That's what I noticed. And basically, while I was doing research for Global Conquest, this is where I started to try to get a complete list, as I was doing basically for every single globe, getting kind of a list of the mergers and trying to see which worlds are missing, or how the logic and the algorithm worked for predicting the matchup, is how I discovered all this. So we saw that, we saw that 432 and 435 merged into 457, but we didn't see anything about 433. So what happens if you click on 433? Let's click on it. You will notice here that it brings you to 457. What does that tell me? That tells me that 433, which is not listed in the Camel listing of mergers, actually did merge into 457, because that's what the logic says. Any world that's merged, if you click on it on that global map, it takes you to the nation that has been merged. But it's not listed on this list, right? So what is that? I'll call that a unlisted merger or a secret merger. So naturally, what I did next is I clicked through every single world to find out which world am I missing, and where do they take me? So here you can see that when I click on 432 and 435, it makes sense. It takes me to 457. That is a listed merger. 433 that we just tested, it takes us also to 457. So that is a missing merger or a secret merger. The same is applied for 446, 450, and 454. If we switch over to that next globe, you can see the same applies here, that 464 actually takes us to 457 and 469 takes us to 457. Wow. Okay, so this was, pretty revealing, right? So how many worlds take us to 457? Basically, it is a total, you can see it's 464 and 469 here. And if we switch over to the other grouping, you can see it's 433, 446, 450, 454, and then those are all unlisted on Camel's listing of mergers, and the only one that's listed is this. So I have basically 8 different worlds in addition to 457 that have merged into it. So that's 9 worlds in one, or in other words, 2 every time. That means there is, they've had 4 mergers. So 457 is 9 worlds in one. They have had 4 mergers. Let's compare that to any other world in their globe. Nope, just 442, another, limited access server. All of these are just in these 2 worlds. Nobody else has even gotten merged. Let's look at some of the other globes, right? Let's look at here. Everybody here has gotten merged once. Some people haven't even gotten merged at all. Everybody in here has only gotten merged once. So I'm talking about from the 200s onward, 200 to 300 to 400s. Everybody else has gotten a maximum of 1 merger. Yet, how is it possible and fair that 442 and 457 have gotten 4 mergers each? So it's 9 worlds in 442, 9 worlds in 457. And now suddenly, guess what? Those C38s make sense because, basically each world gets a super spender. You merge them together, and a lot of that makes sense. That's why they're getting crazy points in the phases 1 through 4. And that's why they have such strong cities and strong spenders, because you've basically taken 9 worlds worth of spenders and put them together. All right, let me give some caveats. So I brought this up. I mentioned to Camel. So let's go through the story of what happened. So I started off with, okay, before I make any, conclusions or assumptions, let me just ask how many nations merged into 457. And then I said, look, I did my study, and only some of them were publicly announced, but all these other mergers, when I click on them, they go there. So can you give an explanation as to what happened? So let's first say that Princess of Doom, who's a Camel representative that helps manage all of the social media accounts. She's awesome. She's been great. And she's just the messenger here. So let's keep that in perspective. All she's doing is talking and asking on my behalf of the questions that I'm raising. And, I have no reservations or complaints about, her getting the information. I kept on pressing and finally got the answers. And I would not stop. Over a period of a week or a week and a half, I basically kept on asking the question that, what is going on? So Camel's first response was that they did not merge that many nations into 457 and it's a bug. Then I kept on pressing. And basically I said, okay, so it's a bug and they didn't merge into 457 and it's a bug that takes you to 457. So one follow-up question, where did those 4 nations merge into then? And then finally the response came back that, there was a lot of low activity in those nations. And so they did, they did a merger. Okay, whew. So that took a lot of steadfastness and basically just hooking on like a bulldog to say, give me an answer, like, what happened here? Because is it fair that 457 got 4 mergers where nobody else got anything. Guess who won last season's Global Conquest? 457. Guess who's going to win this season's Global Conquest? Without a doubt, it's going to be 457. Guess who's going to win the other group of Global Conquest here that 442 is in? It's going to be 442. So what it does is begs this question. I think it's a great idea to merge nations, based on activity to let them compete, to merge some of the newer nations to be able to compete with some of the older nations. I think that's great. I think it's great if 457 can compete with 309, that can compete with 285, and then gives us more options for the game. I think those are great options. What I don't think is fair is a couple of things. Number one, why can't you create a spy city in these nations? Number two, why do they get 4 mergers and none of the other nations get mergers? How is that fair? And then how is it fair for an unmerged nation to fight a nation that has been merged 4 times? How is it fair to do global conquest with those nations? Please explain, Camel. Please explain. Look, guys, I'm a data guy. I like the game. I like analysis. I stumbled upon this. You can't ignore it. You can't ignore the disparity when you look at this data, that it's unfair. And if I don't bring this up, who will, right? So just look at this. Look at that nation BP, right? 9 billion. And that's just top 10 alliances. There's many. It could actually be more for the total nation BP. How is that remotely fair with all of these other poor nations? How are they going to compete with 457? How is it even challenging for 457 to play? I'll give you some credit, right? So maybe you can say that, look, the game was introduced new. These are some of the earliest nations, and they were in the testing phase. Then say that, be forthright about what it is, and then make them match with worlds that are more in tune with their strength. So make them match with Globe 1 or Globe 2. Don't make them match, with and be bullies in these worlds where nobody else have gotten mergers. Make it fair. Second, I think it's a great idea, but give the other worlds mergers so that they can also have the similar benefits and compete, and do it that way. And moreover, we're seeing this trend continue, right? So this is just the beginning. We're seeing this disparity. I will give Camel some credit because they seem to have matched these nations with each other initially only in these events, right? So you would see that the Void was 442 versus 457, so they tried to kind of make things fair. But that's great. But what about now? What about global conquest? And it doesn't stop there. Look, this world that has gotten a merger, 555, 560, all of these are nations that we have no access to. So there's those locked nations that we have no access to. And again, look, there's a missing merger that wasn't announced. Why this lack of information? Why this disparity in treatment? Nobody else got a merger here. Why is these worlds just getting a merger? Explain. Don't give us that same answer that, we consider a lot of factors. Explain yourself, because people that are spending money, legitimate money in these other nations, are competing against these worlds that are getting, 4 mergers when they got none. That is not okay. That is not okay by any means. I gave Camel a chance before I came out with this research, and I wasn't looking for it. I asked the question. It took a week and a half to get an answer to just admit that that's what happened. And then second is there is no explanation. So I leave it up to you players, right? So you decide if Camel was that intent on listening to players' dissatisfaction with C40 coming out. How about address this? How about address something that you really can control? It's not about misinformation. I'm just pointing out facts. You click on the map, you can see that these mergers have happened. You look at your record, your official record of mergers, you did not list these mergers. Why did you not list these mergers? Why don't you go back and list them now? Be fair, be even. Why is some worlds just getting, 4 mergers when other ones aren't? I sound like a broken record, so I'm going to end this video. But this is something to get excited about. I got excited about it. I'm not even in these globes, but I know these people. I know these people are spending money. I know these people like to win. This game is cultivating that desire to win, and it is not fair when the odds are stacked against you.